Assalamualaikum dear students. I hope every one of you is doing great. I'm your English teacher and today we'll be discussing English grade 6. Dear students, in the previous video we discussed about the first part of unit number 2 and now we'll be discussing the second part. So we are on page number 12. Continuing the lesson, Bilal nodded. Nod means to move your head up and down in a way of answering yes, showing approval. So he shook his head in a way of saying yes. A lot has changed since I was a child and lived here, he said. Bilal is telling Sana about the past, that when he was a child, things were different and now as he's adult, things are different. The village is now changed. And what were the changes? There were lots of plants, trees, birds and small animals, fields of crops. The changes are, previously there were plants, trees, fields of crops, etc. Along with that, there were birds and small animals too. Thus, a pleasant environment of the village is depicted. Sana looked at the barren landscape. Barren. Barren means a land which has poor fertility. And barren landscape means a land, a piece of land that is dry and bare, having very few plants and no trees. Clear? Were those tree stumps really trees when you were little? Now a very interesting word here is tree stumps. What are tree stumps? Dear students, after a tree has been cut and felled means having been cut or knocked down. So the tree stump is really a small remaining portion of the trunk with the roots in the ground. Since we cannot remove roots from the ground, so what we do, we cut a small part of the tree. Okay? We leave a small part of the tree and we cut the remaining part. That small part of the trunk is known as tree stumps. You can see a picture of tree stumps over here. And now I think it would be quite clear to every one of you that what actually a tree stump is. Yes, and you see that big dry patch? There was a pond. Now, what is meant by dry patch? Dry patch is a part of land which was previously a pond, but now it's just a dry patch of land. Water has dried out. My friends and I could skip stones over its surface. Skip stones. Now, dear students, skipping stones means throwing stones in water. So, Mr. Bilal and his friends used to throw stones, skip stones at the pond surface when they were kids. Sana looked bewildered. Bewildered means confused, puzzled. And Bilal couldn't help laughing. Couldn't help laughing means it was impossible for him to stop laughing. It was wonderful. Drawing out water from this well, I could hear the resounding splash of the bucket as it hit the water deep down. It was very wonderful, amazing, pleasant. And drawing out water means moving out water, pulling out water from this well. I could hear the resounding splash. Now a very interesting word here is resounding. What is meaning of resounding? Dear students, resounding means echoing. Loud sound that continues for a long time. Resounding splash of the bucket as it hits the water deep down. So when the bucket hits the water inside the well, there was a resounding loud sound heard to everyone. The squeaking of the chain. Squeaking. Squeak means to make a high-pitched sound. So a high-pitched sound of the chain was heard. And even frogs croaking. Frogs croaking means a rough sound produced by frogs that came from the pond. Previously it was a pond, but now it's just a dry patch of land. So dear students, here 3 sounds are mentioned. Number 1, resounding sound of the bucket when it hits the water. And number 2, squeaking of the chain. And number 3, croaking of frogs. Clear? Oh, why can't I hear it too? What happened to it? Sana asked. Sana asked Mr. Bilal, if you could hear these sounds in the past, why can't I, living in present, while living in the same village? The wells dried up. Bilal sighed. Sighed means, what is sigh? Dear students, sigh is an audible breath expressing sadness or grief. So when one is sad, when he breathes, that sound is called a sigh. People started pumping out lots of water for different purposes. After some years, the water table reduced so much that all the wells were dry. When everyone pulled out a lot of water for their different needs, for their different purposes, so what happened? Eventually, the water dried out. The wells, the ponds dried out. There wasn't enough even water left for irrigation. What is irrigation? No water left for irrigation means there was no water left for crops, for agriculture. So now there are no crops either, Sana said. Since there isn't any water for irrigation, so there won't be any crops, it's quite clear. Bilal was sad to think that all the lovely things that he had enjoyed as a child were lost for Sana. As Bilal enjoyed the natural and fresh things as being a child, Sana missed all these things. His thoughts drifted back to his childhood and he remembered an incident. He knew Sana loved stories of real events. He began to tell her the story. So here Bilal was sad that Sana couldn't enjoy that things and natural things being a child, and this made him quite sad. And then he drifted back. His thoughts drifted back. Drifted back means he recalled his memory and thought went or moved back into the past, into the childhood when he was a child. And he remembered an incident, an event of his childhood. He knew Sana loved stories of real events. Sana loved stories of real events like real incidents, the real happenings. And then he began to tell her the story. And what was the story? Dear students, we will learn the story in the next lecture. That's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed watching this video and must have understood today's lecture. If any confusion or query remains, kindly comment down your questions in the comments section below, and your questions would be answered in the next video. Dear students, now it's time for assigning you some home task. Your home task includes only 2 questions. Question number 1 is, what did Bilal remember about the village landscape when he was young? I repeat, what did Bilal remember about the village landscape when he was young? Question number 2, why did the well dry in the village? I repeat, why did the well dry in the village? You are supposed to write these 2 questions along with their answers on a clean piece of paper, click a picture of that and send it to school WhatsApp number. I'll catch you in the next video. Till that, take care and Allah Hafiz.